welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we're talking, it's all China all the time, and the Sahel heats up. I can't believe that there's any connection between either of those two. Well, we won't be talking connections between the two of those today, but you know how it is. Whenever you have trouble in the world, China's not too far behind. What episode are we on? I just 413. All right, I can't. Every time I see these triple digit, numbers well past, I'm just kind of like, wow, I can't. It doesn't seem like we've been doing it for that long. But hey, when you got
about Hong Kong on episode 416, we're not very good showmen because HK 416 is a great idea.
Well,
and I should apologize now that episode 411, I was the one in charge of, so there wasn't very much information in it.
We gave them all the information on 411.
Well, and then we've got 420 coming up, so we clearly need to keep a clear head and a weather eye for that episode. So maybe we can get like Elon Musk to come out for that one. All right, that would be cool. I get dream guess, maybe, I don't know. Looking at the chat.
Actually, wait, hold on. You just said that the key, and I have to mention it again. I have a new chase producer. I have somebody who proved that she's capable of literally contacting anybody, even people who have people around them, to prevent people from contacting them. So you give me a new wish list again, and we'll sick her on it, and we'll see how that works.
Ooh. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I think I remember who you're talking about. Yeah. I think didn't we talked about this in Montana a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of the people of the chat, a lot of favorites here. Natalie, speaking of Montana, saw her and her family there in Montana. Very nice seeing her again. Uncle's Bob's Bees is always here. Thank you. Speaking of 411. Yeah, Stormy, as always, sharing. We've got some locals content that's being developed. I've got some stuff coming up here in the next couple of weeks that I'm excited to get writing about. I've been, they've been really busy the last 2 weeks, but one of the nice things about the environment I was working in is not a whole lot of internet. And when you don't have a whole lot of internet, that gives you opportunity to sit there and write on things. And instead of writing the things I should have been writing about, I was making some notes on some columns and things like that. Also, we have some videos coming for the locals. Now, the writing is me, and that I hold myself responsible for that. But the videos is another guy who, I'm just saying.
I'm really hoping someone got video of your cartwheel. That's what I'm hoping.
I mean, if somebody has video of the cartwheel, we'll throw it up on locals. I mean, hey, that's content worth paying for right there.
Yeah.
But listen, though, if you really want to see Scott do a cartwheel, it must be experienced in person.
Oh, that's true.
So make it out to the next event.
Well, and the other thing too is I didn't build it up. There was no build up. There was no warning. I just busted it out.
Yeah. If Joe and I hadn't been standing there talking to each other a couple feet away, neither one of us would have believed it ever happened.
Well, I blame Natalie because
I'm like, what is Scott doing?
I blame Natalie because it was her daughter and all the the physical feats of tumbling and things that she was doing that just it's like we had our own little Olympic training camp going on there. Yes, he can do it. See.
I think it was probably more similar to the mace, but we can move on.
But I won't say that it had nothing to do with the copious amount of whiskey that had been just drank right prior to that. So,
sir, this isn't windy.
All right. Anyway, chat.
If you guys saw it, I tagged you guys in it, but I invited John Conrad to come and talk maritime.
I'd love to get him on. Yeah, he was smacking some folks down in the on X yesterday. That was definitely entertaining to watch.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about the? You guys saw what he told his former governor, right?
I don't know if I'm not.
Hold on. So okay, I'll just set it up.
Oh, is this the? Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
So Gandhi's? No.
Different. I'm sorry. I literally looked over at Twitter while we were talking, and I saw a different tweet of his, but it was not the same one.
Well, I'm just trying to find this this clip that Michael Malice did with Joe Rogan. Here we go. Okay, so caution again. There's going to be echo, so. And it's a short, so I can't make it full screen. But here you go.
No talking while.
See the one Elon just played of did you see the one of
Kamala Harris? Yeah.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet.
And do you see what Gavin Newsom said to him?
No.
Pull that post up, Jamie. Gavin Newsom said that you should be posting this. That we're going to make it illegal, and I'm going to sign a law. And he said, "Professor, suck on these nuts."
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did. Yes,
Elon
he did.
said that to Gavin Newsom?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Sug on these nuts, and he said parody is legal in America.
Okay, but Elon is not on rad. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Are you still sharing audio?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. It's a big change, gents. We've been doing this for however many years, and that's never been the case until a few days ago. So.
Peter Chase Helicopter Tours for $2 says, "Have Sean get maritime lawyer and SoCo legal vices." You know,
we've done a show with him before.
Yeah. Well, you know, I would love to. I think getting what's the lawyer here in Korea? You know, his name is Jay or Jeff or something like that. Anyway, he does a lot of maritime law stuff too. It'd be kind of cool, you know.
That's what it is. That's what he's talking about. Legal vices.
Yeah.
Legal vices. Thank you. I was thinking legal mindset when I saw legal vices. Yeah.
You know, I will be honest, Scott. I'll let you off the hook. I get that because all of our friends have so many, like all of our lawyer friends that have legal channels, they are all legal puns that all start with legal something, and eventually you just go.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a challenge to keep all of them straight. Now the thing is I hung out with him in person, so like I got to know his name, and for some reason I have a hard time. It's the same name as my brother, so you'd think it would be easier for me to remember, but of course it's not. So go figure.
Let me just say though, as a maritime security person, we don't like to invite the lawyers around. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Knowing the law is important. Having lawyers there, not so much.
Well, yeah, you just gotta have them on speed dial. That's all.
Stormy says, "Didn't you meet him in Legal Mindset?" Yeah. So me, Legal Mindset, myself, and Legal Vice is all hung out in Itaewon here in Seoul for a night, and that was a lot. That was a lot of drinking on that night too.
I was gonna say you guys have shared soju. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I'm just going to be. I'll be honest. The soju was pretty good. The way that you had it mix it, Scott. It was pretty good.
I'm telling you, soju is a great mixer. If you want to turn like any type of soda into like hard soda, just add soju. That's the way to do it. And my wife assured me that was the best soju in a plastic bottle. So. I know, right?
Well, it's funny because it really was like a very premium product, but it really was like the cheapest plastic bottle ever.
Itaewon soju bombs, absolutely right. This is old school right here, and the bowls. They used to have these like soju hooch bowls that it was almost like a fishing bowl. Is what why they called it a bowl. Anyway, lawyers, guns, and money. That's what is that? Warren Zevon song?
Yes.
All right, gentlemen. Let's just go around the horn real quick. Joe, anything to bring to the attention of the chat before we get started?
Absolutely. We had a fantastic class this weekend. A great group of guys who actually had a lot of fun getting out and role-playing interactions at a checkpoint or roadblock or while doing a security patrol of your neighborhood. I know it's a lot more fun to go to all of the range classes and things like that, but once the lights go out, 95% of your time will be spent manning a checkpoint or an observation post. It's not always cool guy stuff all the time. So come and learn those. I have another community security class coming up in Mays County, Oklahoma on September 20th through the 22nd. And I have a fieldcraft class coming up back down at Brush Beater's place September 13th through the 15th. So I have a lot of windshield time coming up. In light of that, I have decided to follow Brush Beater's example and produce an audio podcast. It's on Podbean, and we will start releasing episodes as soon as I get some content built up. So
Podbean,
it's going to be a good time.
Let me know if you, I should slap together some stuff for you for that. We'll talk.
Oh, someone's going to have to edit it out and take out all the road noise because I'm going to record these while I'm driving because I have nothing else to do. So
I can probably do that.
While you're on the, when you're on the road, Joe, you got time to think about things. Let me give you some homework here. And this is headspace homework, right?
Yeah.
If you would, next time you're on a trip, kind of go through like maybe top 3 kind of thematic maritime related kind of things that we could do a show on. What I'm thinking is if, you, Watcher, and then like Jeff and, John, right? Is his name John Conrad?
Yeah.
If we could get the 5 of us together talking some of these maritime issues, especially cross-cutting, for instance, maritime security is something is not just a thing, in the Red Sea.
You can also get Ross on Huntsman.
Oh, hold on a second. Stormy says for $10. Happy Hump Day, viewers. Please like the stream you are watching, leave a comment, share the stream, and check out the links in the description for more content and resources. Welcome to CFC. Thank you, Stormy. Thank you very much. One of our awesome longtime fans. Stormy's been around since almost the beginning. So thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
We can also bring on Ross Snow, who the Huntsman. He's a pretty solid guy. He's actually down in Guyana today working on some maritime security stuff. So pretty interesting.
Watcher, anything you want to share with the chat before we get started?
Yeah. I'm just going to pop over and make 100% sure it's not in the show notes. Yeah, we're not talking about it today. Okay, cool. So, let me just get us in trouble real quick. I would like to say that not voting for Trump because you are anti-abortion and Trump has stated that he will not federally ban abortion is extremely similar to being anti-war and not voting for Trump because he hasn't promised to disband NATO on day 1. Stop letting perfect be the enemy of the good.
But I got to say this. The people who believe that somehow Trump and Vance are going to do a nationwide abortion ban are silly because they never said that. It was a question from a reporter that they planted, and now all of a sudden it's a talking point.
Oh, facts.
They never said they were going to do this. Not to mention the Supreme Court has already said it's not a federal issue.
Oh,
you're right.
Look, people, when I tell people that this is an op, they're like, what do you mean this is an op? This was something they brought up. No, it's not anything they brought up. This was brought up to try and poke at his base. This is part of
it's very fine people on both sides all over again.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not going to get, we do have we will be talking a little bit of domestic politics here in the odds and ends. There's two of the three, actually, three of the three odds and ends have a domestic political angle.
Yeah.
But the thing that's discouraging, right? I mean, we all know the steel is in. I mean, it's not only in like it was in 2020, but it's more solidified than it was then. And they'll do things more boldly now that they know what they can get away with. But that being said, everything that's in the media, right? That's where the actual opinions of people are being solidified. And it is so sad to see how the mainstream media, which gets way too much airtime and influence based on the absolute appalling lack of people that watch it. And then also the information operations that are going on platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are absolutely just pushing pablum for Kamala Harris. I mean, she was literally a moron, and everybody knew it 3 months ago. And all of a sudden now she's she's the great Indian hope. I mean, I don't.
Well, no, that depends on the time of day and who she's talking to.
Asian hope. I mean, is that what we're calling? She.
Well, again, depends on the time of day and who she's talking to. Who she thinks.
I shouldn't say things like that. I'll get myself in trouble. I'm sure.
Right. Let me just address a few things from chat that I saw that I thought were entertaining. First of all, Stevie J says nationwide reporter ban. And I say, no, here's the deal. We just do like the Romans did. We treat them like actors, and they have to be out past the town outskirts by dark.
Right.
And then Crockpot Brockley says, get that guy from What's Going On with Shipping Channel. Yes, I would utterly adore that, but I think he is massive and probably wouldn't have the time for us. But I will try.
All right. Let's just actually, you know what, real quick, let's share our good buddy Don's gifts, and it's not Don's, it's Don's wife's gifts and go that she has created to support his ongoing legal defense. There it is. And this is more than just helping Don. I mean, Don is one of hundreds of people who are in this essentially the same situation. There was a guy, I saw a headline today. One of the first people that went into the Capitol building has now just got 4 years. He got sentenced to 4 years. So I'm not confident that there will be anything that will, happen that will free these people. We were talking about the presidential fix it in. So I would love to be pleasantly surprised in early November, but I'm not betting my life on it. That's for sure. Anyway, so if you've got a couple pennies that you can rub together, maybe share one of those pennies with Don. He could use it. If you can't support him, maybe just share the link out there. Let people know that, hey, Don's a good people. He is literally a political, being politically persecuted at this point. Yeah. And if he is ever detained, he will then be a political prisoner. This is not leftist protesters get arrested for this kind of stuff all the time. They get arrested, taken down, given a ticket or a fine, and they are released. And many times they're just released without being charged. So when conservatives do the same thing they do, this is what happens. So, continuing to be persecuted 4 years later.
Yeah, right. I do want to give a couple of updates on this. First of all, I've heard some people expressing concern about lack of momentum. Don't worry about that. We are actually in the process of making a very large video, and Don's large social network of creators kind of on our side is getting ready to share it out once that video is finished and created. But it's been very hard to get Don to be able to sit down and record video, as you might imagine. So once we have a few moments and he's got some time, we're going to get that all done. We've got everything else ready, though. And we've even got videos that are recorded by some of those creators started to pour in that we're going to tack on to the end of it as kind of endorsements. So it's going to be a good time, and there's going to be a big push to share this out again. So we appreciate all the support you guys have been able to give in the past, and we're going to especially appreciate your help getting it spread once there's a good video on it, because social media campaigns like this that have videos tend to raise significantly higher amount of funds than those that don't.
I also want to thank Don, because having read the FBI agent's affidavit, my logo appears in the FBI's affidavit for an arrest warrant. So
yeah, I saw
I'm
that.
pretty happy with that.
I was like, I was like, unintentional product placement. Yes,
right. It's got me saying Don was right. Yeah,
Don was right. That's it.
I can't think of a better place for me to say Don was right than smack in the middle of an indictment.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I on my own, in alignment with this, if you'd like to get some free Don or Don did nothing wrong merch, Hunter and I are supposed to be coordinating on getting some of that put out. So we're gonna do some stickers and hoodies and t-shirts.
Very good. Yeah. I don't want to take all the credit, but I'm just gonna say it was my idea to save Don, free Don. Anyway. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole thing was the ultimate troll by Don, because he got Merrick Garland to give a press conference where Merrick Garland advertised for me. That was beautiful. It was well done.
Yeah. That's.
Are we suggesting that?
Well played, Don. Well played.
Are we suggesting that Don is Tom Sawyering the FedGov now?
It was really good.
All right, let's jump in, guys, to our first odds and ends today. So return of the Gaza pier. I love these archive links. It takes forever for them to load. Biden approved Gaza pier despite internal pushback. Watchdogs find. So Joe, it's almost like he had people who actually knew what the hell they were talking about saying, "Listen, JLOTS is a great tool, but this is not where you want to use it and when you want to use it."
You use it, yes,
exactly right. I'm still having trouble pulling that up. Could you scroll back up there, Watcher? There we go. Troubled humanitarian mission faced with early concerns within the U.S. government, including a warning that rough seas could pose a serious challenge, an Inspector General find. All right, go on down. All right. Let's see. Biden approved the plan for delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza via a floating military pier, despite warnings from within the U.S. government that rough waves could pose significant challenges and objections from officials who feared the operation would detract from the diplomatic push to compel Israel to open additional land routes into the war zone, according to Inspector General report. The watchdog for U.S. AID, which oversees Washington's humanitarian work abroad, cited various external factors. USAID, just don't get me started on those guys. Cited various external factors that it is said impaired the agency's effort to distribute food and other supplies brought to Gaza over the pier. Among them, according to the report, were the security requirements imposed by the Pentagon to protect U.S. military personnel working aboard the structure just offshore. Multiple USAID staff expressed concerns that Biden administration's focus on the pier undercut the agency's advocacy for opening more land crossings, an approach, the report said, deemed more efficient and proven. Once the president issued the directive, the report states the agency's focus was on the use of the pier as effectively as possible. The pier was attached to the Gaza coastline in May amidst rising concerns of famine that prompted the Pentagon to to begin airdropping food into Gaza. But from the start, the mission was dogged by logistical and security setbacks, including rough seas that broke apart the structure, looting of aid trucks on land, and the persistent logjam moving food from a staging area ashore due to worries that the Israeli bombardment would kill the workers tasked with distributing it. It's almost like nobody thought this out, Joe.
Yeah, hold on, because
we addressed every one of these problems before they did it.
It's also almost like they didn't mention the biggest problem there, because the quote workers tasked with distributing it were proven time and time again
to be working for Hamas.
Flat out be Hamas.
Crazy.
Oh, excuse me. All right. While Israeli officials have said that they allowed the aid into Palestine territory, humanitarian groups assess that it is insufficient to feed roughly 2 million people trapped by the violence. And, guys, how many times do we see the Hamas with their gunmen basically guarding aid trucks full of the aid that's supposed to go to the people? And where did it go? Bellies of Hamas fighters.
No.
Say it ain't so, Joe.
Say it ain't so.
That's right.
You know what's funny is everyone wants to complain and screech how we're aiding Israel in their war against the Palestinians. Meanwhile, we literally risk lives to aid the Palestinians in the war against the Israelis. There's never been a war where we've given so much aid to both sides. And all these protesters are out here saying we have to cut off funding for the Hamas war. Stop funding Israel. We provide as much money to the Palestinians as we do to Israel. We just don't give the Palestinians arms, because we may have learned a time or two over history that giving the Palestinian arms is a terrible idea. But they get as much monetary aid they get a ton of monetary and food aid from the U.S. government. It's crazy. Which they then convert to military uses, despite what everyone will tell you. Those aid trucks were not stolen by hungry people. They were stolen by Hamas fighters.
Well, and that's really frustrating to see, that aid going, that's aid paid for by you and me, Joe, going into the bellies of Hamas fighters. That's, it's an insult. And, hey, what more can we do about it when our government basically doesn't execute the will of the people? All right. What's your thoughts on this?
We called it incompetence and idiocy from the start, and I have never been convinced that this was anything otherwise. The only thing this shows me is that I do need to let. I always said, like, hey, it's not the fault of the servicemen on the pier, but I do need to even let some of the mid-level army guys off the hook that I figured were probably jumping off the hook saying, ooh, let's show off our capability. It sounds like it was pretty much just Biden and whatever high-level advisors gave him the advice that decided this was the way to go. So, and USAID, who was apparently running the actual shipments and deciding what was going to get sent, which might explain why so little actually got sent.
Well, let's be honest, that they do have USAID may not be our favorite people in the world, but they do have a point on the method of delivering aid to people. And that rickety little pier was never going to be.
For sure. I agree. It makes me wonder who got the. Like, I understand why it happened. It's very obvious why it happened. This provides the third way, right? You're not forcing Israel to open their land borders, and you're not forcing Egypt to open their land borders, neither of which are things you're likely to be able to do anyways. So instead of howling at both of them and just being rebuffed, you make your own third way, right? It's kind of, in some ways, the Berlin airlift strategy. It's just didn't have the capability.
Well, the The other thing that it's sad is JLOTS was, which is the system that kind of what is it? I don't know, amphibious or beach access system that they were using, right?
Right.
That's a system, not just like the piers are called that, but that's an entire system of different types of functions that can give access to undeveloped coastline. And I've seen it in action, and it works great when you do it correctly, right? When you have the correct planning, when you use it in the right place, when you're, have conditions that are, good for the tool, right? But if you use the wrong tool at the wrong time, then you're, if I'm trying to fix a TV by banging on the tube with a hammer, never going to fix it. In fact, I'll probably ruin it.
You know what's funny about said Chinese bot? For some reason, he's not showing up on the StreamYard side, which means there's some way that he's inputting his chats that are different from everyone else on Rumble.
Which one are we talking about?
Oh, I don't want to give it too much attention.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
We have a very
is it the one with the 33 in his name?
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah. Well, I'm seeing it on StreamYard, but not like, it doesn't look like all of his instances are popping up. It's kind of
that's
weird.
Right. Yeah. Anyhow, we'll just let bot farms be bot farms.
Well, why don't we do this?
Hey, there we go.
There we go. All right. I have no idea what he's talking about, but all right. Yeah. Anything else on this, guys? I think that pretty much sums it up. The irony is that we called it at the time that this was a bad idea, and sure enough, they were given the advice by the professionals within the administration. This is a bad idea, and shock of all shocks. I know. I just thought about that. Right after I said it, I was like, the tubes on TVs, that's not really a thing.
Imagine Rick telling somebody they're aging themselves.
I know.
I was gonna say, wow.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So this is from a website called Unusual Whales. California State Senate has passed a bill providing undocumented immigrants up to $150,000 in state-supported home loans. Woosah.
Well, look, man. I get it. But gee. Actually, there's a lot of ways you could go with this. I think probably the most interesting thing was somebody pointing out that this replicates some of the like Tammany Hall style and kind of early American history of incredible corruption, where, for instance, I can't remember where it was, but who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was in Chicago. Might be wrong there, but the mayor was a Irish Catholic and did not like the native population, and literally just said, hey, we're going to make this toxic for them to live in. We're going to do all the things they hate to specifically piss them off, to force them to leave. And in doing so, drove out like the most wealthy people in the city and all the people that actually owned most of the businesses, but stagnated the city for a long time, but ensured that he was able to continue to get reelected until he died well into his 70s, 80s.
Well, these people, anybody who says that governors like Gavin Newsom don't know what they're doing is absolutely wrong. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he wants exactly what he's getting. He wants to turn California into basically I hate to say it's almost the state version of like turning a family into a welfare family, right? Break them up, destroy the social cohesion, and give them a bunch of federal money so that they can, and then also tax your businesses to the point where it wouldn't be feasible to do business. I mean, when Elon Musk and an oil company both leave the state within a week, you're on the right track. Well done, Gavin. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, a prominent supporter of President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, hasn't yet confirmed whether he'll sign the bill if it clears the state house by the August 31st deadline. His decision may come while Republican nominee Donald Trump continues to criticize Harris for the surge in migrants at the U.S. border during the early Biden administration. As Harris shifts her stance on immigration, this proposal could add political tension. In her DNC acceptance speech, Harris called for the immigration reform and celebrated the U.S. as a nation of immigrants, although the California plan focuses on potential home buyers, not new migrants. It may still pose political risk for Harris, giving Trump an opportunity to link her with the ongoing border crisis. Trump campaign spokesperson called the proposal fundamentally unfair. Yeah, you could say that again. But typical Democratic policy. California Republicans are also pushing back. Is there such a thing, really, guys? Republicans in California? I mean, I don't know about that.
Well, here's the interesting thing to me about this as well. They know that this is going to piss off their own constituency. Whatever this is so important to them that they've decided that they don't care anymore. And I think what that is, hey, they're not sure they're going to have federal funding to support housing these people in hotels for another 4 years, the way that they have been for the last 4. And so they're trying as hard as they can to get them in permanent housing so as few of them self-deport as possible. Mexican Iron Man's got a membership for 19 months.
Yeah, he says 150K. What absolute morons! Glad I left the state. Now lead the Hilton. He lives on. He's a Hilton Head Island militia located conveniently by the golf course. That's what I'm talking about, my man. Yeah, Mexican Iron Man, we need to get you back on the channel sometime. Just let me know when you got a free morning. We'd love to wrangle you in here.
My favorite not YouTuber.
Yeah, non-YouTuber, yeah.
If that non-YouTuber is free that weekend of 9/13 to 15, we have 3 different classes going on just north of him in North Carolina. That weekend I'll be there, and then Medic will be teaching a first aid class, and Wyoming Survival will be teaching a HF radio class. So gonna be a busy weekend. A lot going on.
Yeah, let's be honest, Joe, though. There's going to be a lot going on between now and the end of the year. I mean,
I ought to see my schedule between now and the election. All windshield time. So
pretty much.
But that's good. We're teaching classes everywhere. Not to mention, I hear that while we're on site at the Oklahoma class, there will be a baptism in the river in front of Joel's farm. So it's going to be some cool stuff.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and that's another guy that we met out in Montana. I want to get here on the show.
Yeah,
we need to. Interesting guy. He got to wear a shirt when he comes on the show, though. That's just the rule.
I'm trying to put together a panel on food security. I'm also trying to put together an ad for his products, but I am waiting. He and I have agreed that I will sell no beef until I see it.
Yeah, man.
The only thing is that Joel wants this ad to contain me and Watcher shirtless, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, so we're, Joe, I'm working with him now. We ran it by, and we'll see. But I said, hey, how about AI generation?
There we go.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, this is typical California, typical Gavin Newsom, typical Democratic Party these days. Yeah. So basically, this just real quick, just the details on this. It provides up to 20% in down payment assistance, capped at $150,000. Up to 25%, capped at 100. I mean, how expensive are these homes these criminal aliens are buying? It operates as a shared appreciation loan where the home buyer only pays interest based on the home's increase in value upon sale. All right. This is pissing me off just reading about It doesn't surprise me, though. I mean, this is exactly, Joe, this is that kind of thing, that policy that not only is it socialistic, right, but it's designed to like plant their roots in our neighborhoods, right? And this is, okay, California houses are pretty damn expensive, but still, 20% at 150. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? That's these are decent neighborhoods that they're talking about. Planting their flag.
I don't know. This is California. 150,000 is not that much.
That's no. That's 20% of the value of the home, capped at 150. So that's basically 150 times 5 is what these loans would be able to be used for.
It's absolutely crazy though. The one requirement is that you be here illegally. That makes no sense to me.
It does if you think about it from a purely utilitarian, they don't give a shit anymore stance. Hey, we want to change the demographics of this area. We literally want to make it intolerable for people who won't be able to tolerate giving $150,000 out of state funds to these people. We want them to leave.
And if that 150 is
some of the housing market,
if that 150 isn't enough, have no fear. At the federal level, the Harris is advocating for a Biden administration plan that would offer up to $25,000 in down payment assistance to first generation homeowners. Although undocumented migrants wouldn't be eligible under current federal laws. Well, they would just do some sort of matching program at the state level. Lance Corporate for $2 says price has gone down, but a year ago I could get 625. Yeah.
And then a guy that I've been waiting to hear from for a while. Seems like he's been real busy. We haven't heard from him, but Hunch asks, what would the ad be called?
Yeah.
Two bears, one thing.
That's funny.
All right, I take that back, Hunch. I'm not coming through Fargo on my way to
that's funny.
Good to
All
see
right.
Hunch.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us move on. If you're ever,
know them by their enemies, I think is the way to introduce this, right?
Well, I was going to say you may roll your eyes sometimes when we always talk about essentially any Republican that you knew by name before 2014, right? We refer to them as Vichy GOP here on the channel. I think that's absolutely correct because they still want to identify themselves as Republicans, yet they fundamentally disagree in that the policy, conservative and classical liberal policies are the way to go to make the country a better place, right? America first ideas, these are anathema to these people. And it kind of reminds me, it's like when I saw this image, I saw the image that you shared, Watcher, before I read the headline. And it's exactly the kind of the tagline here. Your daily reminder that the establishment is one big club and you ain't in it. What are we referring to? Well, it's a bipartisan miracle. Over 200 Bush, McCain, and Romney aides endorse Harris. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Because guess what? A lot of these Republican administrations and big politicians, they hire Democrats.
Well, he used the term full-throated support. I think he meant deep.
Yeah. Look, I don't know if this is the very first time that we're having this talk. I almost feel like we're like 40 and I'm telling you about the birds and the bees. But let me tell you what happens. People decide they want to get into politics, and they generally don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat. They just go with whoever has open slots at the moment, and they've got connections to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. How many Louisville Democrats go to Washington and work for Mitch McConnell? Now there are certain ones that I believe they kind of do a good job of purging the ranks of their aides. The Thomas Masseys, the guys like this, the Margaret Taylor Greene, Gates, Matt Gates. These kind of people are probably pretty sharp to that grift, right? But Joe Blow, freshman congressman who is generally conservative, probably is inundated by people who are selling themselves to work for them. So more than 200. Go ahead.
Before we do this, I have to say, as far as Romney goes, we all know this now and we all hate him now. But how did we not see this earlier? I mean, it even got brought up as an attack ad against him that he literally designed essentially a state version of Obamacare and continued to champion it even as he was president.
Well,
somehow somebody said, "Oh, but that's just a states' rights issue," and then that all got brushed aside.
Here's the interesting thing, right? In the evolution of this kind of where we are right now with the kind of MAGA / American First movement within the Republican Party here. Back then when Mitt Romney was running for president, if you were a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, you're probably one of these, 9/12, what Glenn Beck was doing all these, rallies and and that was all really super constitutional kind of focused, and it was a kind of
was still on everybody's minds.
Right. And, but we were also still fighting the good fight, the really controversial people said, well, maybe Iraq wasn't a good idea, in hindsight. Right.
And that was still an edgy take. Yeah, I remember.
That was still an edgy take back then. I mean, hell, I went to Afghanistan the next year in 2013. So, I mean, it was just one of those kind of things that, we were still gleefully fighting the war on terrorism. Now, that's not to say that terrorists shouldn't be killed. They should be. But, it's just one of those kind of things. Right. So, it wasn't until the Donald Trump kind of era and the end of the Obama era that you really started to see this America First kind of coalition really kind of crystallize, right? And I hate to say it, but that came out of a lot of the Ron Paul folks. He was the guy saying the FBI needs to be banned, and guys like me back in 2012 was like, "Come on, Ron, you've been smoking crack. The FBI is not all bad." And then here I am, 12 years later, I'm like, the FBI absolutely should be gotten rid of. And so should every other federal law enforcement, except for maybe the marshals. So how we've traveled in the last 12 years.
Yeah, man, if I had a nickel for every time somebody in my presence was forced to say Ron Paul was right, I'd have a lot of money.
Now it's Alex Jones is right. It's like, Ron Paul was saying, but Alex Jones is that's just crazy. They're turning the frogs gay, right? Come on. That's a little bit too far. Human animal chimeras. Wow.
Oh my God. My favorite is I've started to see people try and debunk Alex Jones wasn't right. And then they go into like the stuff about the frogs and they're like, he was trying to say that they were deliberately trying to feminize everybody. And that's why they're turning the frogs gay. Look, nobody cares, man. He was correct. They were, in fact, turning the frogs gay with chemicals that they were putting in the water. That's why everybody cares. He was right.
So in a Monday letter first reported by USA Today, a group reiterated their opposition to Trump and support for Harris. This is essentially...
But you know what? The opposition to Trump is placed first in that sentence on purpose.
100%.
Because that's the real reason, right? It has nothing to do with Harris.
They would rather oppose Trump than support all the policies that they would, allegedly support that he would.
Which ironically, Harris is adopting as her own.
Well,
you got to admit, it's the best campaign strategy in the world. Agree with whatever your opponent says.
My favorite thing ever was last week. Multiple of our friends were like, next she's going to be saying build the wall as a joke. And yeah, she's literally doing
Sibley, and sure enough, she's going to build the wall.
All right. So listen to this stuff right here. This is from the letter, I guess. Of course, we have plenty of honest ideological disagreements with Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. That's to be expected. The alternative, however, is simply untenable, reads the letter. At home, another 4 years of Donald Trump's chaotic leadership, this time focused on advancing the dangerous goals of Project 2025, once again, the fine people myth. He has not endorsed Project 2025. He has endorsed many
Project
positions.
2025 has literally nothing to do with Donald Trump.
It's the what is it? The Heritage Foundation, right?
Yeah,
that's their thing. Will hurt people every day, people, and weaken our sacred institutions. See that they care more about the sacred institutions, and knows the word sacred, right?
That's proof that this is a religion for them, right?
This is the non-theistic. Yes, this is the non-theistic religion, and it shows that they are absolute, dyed-in-the-wool, revolutionary communists, because they don't even know it. When the programming is so deep that you say, I'm not a communist all day long, until one day you find yourself, instead of pounding your fist, you're shaking the red flag.
Yeah, well, look, I'm not even gonna lie. There's a lot of people in my life that I've cut out that I'm like, oh, you're a communist now, and they're like, what are you talking about? And so like, okay, so either you're a communist or you're a useful idiot. Either way, you're gone. That's it. Like, I'm sorry, the ends are the same. But yeah, this is kind of what we were talking about the other day. If you remember, I had that kind of good quote that I spoiled by using the wrong one. But Hanlon's razor was a fine tool until leftists started slitting throats with it, and they really did. It's the whole they play dumb at every turn, at every angle. And so you go, oh, well, leftists are just stupid. No, they're not. No, they're evil. They're just using the stupidity.
Hey, can you
as a
put
shield.
Militant Roots' chat on the screen for a second? His Rumble chat? His Rumble? Oh, you can't put it over there, can you?
No, let me see what I can.
It says, I'm still waiting for more proof the elites are vampires communicating with extra dimensional beings, but I'm not saying it's wrong. There is a video out like a couple days ago of was that what's his name? Crap. But he like looks like he kicks a demon out of his chair. He like talks to a non-existent being.
Oh yeah.
He tells him to get up and move. And
Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer. So there may be proof of that.
Yeah.
Either that or dimension.
Right.
Random PNW guy 84 for $5 over in the Rumble chat says, with it being a scandal a week with every federal law enforcement agency, what sets the Marshal's office apart that they stay out of negative spotlight? Well,
simple. The U.S. Marshal Service only executes orders of the court. Therefore, they're not really out self-initiating things like the FBI is.
Yeah, literally vampire. I'm sorry. I was reading Jay Clark's tweet right above it where he's quoting the Alex Jones song.
Yeah.
Well, and also the Marshals, they have capabilities beyond like what you typically think about, with the transportation of prisoners and things like that, right? I mean, it's more than just security guard.
Yeah. But I mean, any activity they take outside amongst the public is just going after fugitives and executing court orders. The U.S. Marshal Service doesn't initiate investigations like the others do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so despite this is a YouTube video that I don't mind sharing, but maybe just for a little laugh, share the video at the bottom there. Watch her. It's little George Carlin's good for the soul, I think. I don't care about the copyright.
Not too bright, folks. Not too fucking bright. But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, and you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They say we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. And you say to them, well, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. They say, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. And that's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil.
Well, he's not wrong.
Watcher, you literally got to share your audio.
Yeah. Prescient.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep that at that. I mean, it's so based how George Carlin. I mean, he was a big lefty back in the day. It's just so shocking to see how the Overton window has moved.
Yes.
All right.
That was back when the left was anti-establishment, not pro-establishment.
Well, there's a reason why a lot of those old school punks are now Trump supporters.
Yeah, Johnny Rotten and the like. Which, I mean, that is heartening, right?
Yeah. Gentlemen, real quick, Joe, you wanted to, you kind of already gave your plug. Anything else you want to talk about with tactical-wisdom.com before we go to segment 1?
Yeah, I owe everyone over there an article. So I will be putting something out. I don't even know what. Things have been kind of hectic here as I've been on the road for a week, and now I've got like 3 days to get this whole house packed up. And as you can see by all of this behind me, I'm halfway through it. It looks like a disaster area. Oh, that is not a box of 762 by 39 up there. I'll have to move that. Anyway, we're in the middle of that. So I'm going to put out something. I don't know what, something about mindset and being ready and accepting where we are, getting rid of normalcy bias. And then other than that, we're in this rush, guys. The first quarter of 2025 is coming right up. A couple weeks ago, Mike Shelby said, if you got somewhere outside of a blue hive you can get to, now is the time to get there. He was not wrong. There's just a lot of things going on that are not adding up well. The deep state seems to be entrenched in this position that of panic, that if they can't win, they're willing to create civil war conditions, and they're openly saying so. So I would say get out and get to a training event. That's why Matt and I both have had such a heavy duty training schedule, traveling around the country, getting classes up and running, so that folks at least have some sort of a baseline, much like my baseline training manual. See what I did there? Of training before things start to get bad. So get out, build community, meet each other. Watch my website for another article to come out, and watch the locals for some more content too.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Buy books for all your friends. Send them out.
And send super chats, just like Sweeney and Cobb for $5. He says, which agency was responsible for the initial Ruby Ridge raid?
I'm going to disagree with you slightly because the ATF was. The U.S. Marshal Service did not conduct a raid at Ruby Ridge. They conducted reconnaissance for an arrest attempt and were found out. There was no original raid at Ruby Ridge. They were acting illegally. But one incident does not. We're not over here touting the virtues of the U.S. Marshal Service. We were asked a question and we answered it. Right. That's why they're not in the news. They're not out initiating things. Yeah. Ruby Ridge was wrong all the way around. But I'm going to be honest with you. That entire chain of events was initiated by the ATF.
Yeah, here's the other thing too. You know, ATF will basically run the main investigation. You know, in the case of Ruby Ridge, and then they will be able to tell every other agency involved and their personnel exactly what they want to tell them. You know, this guy's a real threat, or I mean, they can paint any picture they want. And so the honest Mr. Marshall guy who shows up, or whatever agency seconded to the ATF to help out, is just like, okay, yeah, I take your word for it. If you tell me that's the case, that's the case. Now, that's naive of them to do so, but I won't cut anybody any slack who does anything wrong. Disband and make it a yes. I agree. All right, let us. Let's move on to our main topic today. All China, all the time. We got several China-related stories here. This is an interesting one. Series of U.S.-China cloak and dagger summits led to this week's Sullivan trip to Beijing. Despite the Biden administration's recent attempt to talk tough on China, calling it a strategic competitor, both sides have been talking behind the scenes with an aim towards balancing relations. basically us allowing China to do whatever the hell they want, essentially. Both sides have been talking behind the scenes to ensure recent years of antagonism doesn't veer into conflicts. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, starting Tuesday, is meeting over a period of 2 days with his Chinese counterpart, senior foreign policy official Wang Yi, in the Chinese capital. President Biden has been very clear in his conversations with President Xi that he is committed to managing the important relationship responsibly. Sullivan told Wang just ahead of rare talks, crucially, this is the first trip by a sitting U.S. National Security Advisor to China in 8 years.
Why would it matter what Biden has said about the issue? Why would it matter to anybody what Biden said about the issue? The dude's the lamest of lame ducks that has ever existed.
Your audio is dropping a little bit, and then it comes back.
So sorry about that. Like, is that a little better?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So he's the lamest of lame duck candidates that's ever existed, except for maybe what's his face, who like technically kicked the bucket, right? And they just pretended he hadn't. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. From the Chinese side, they say the key is to keep an overall direction of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation, just like they won in the South China Sea last week with their bumper boats. Wang has said he called recent China-U.S. ties critical, but admitted the relationship was has of late taken twists and turns. Chinese Foreign Policy Ministry, in a separate statement, said China will focus on expressing serious concerns, clarifying its solemn position, and making serious demands on the Taiwan issue, the right to development, and China's strategic security. Now, remember, the reason why Taiwan is so important, it's not just because it's an island. It's not because they think they're going to get any kind of like chip factories or something like that. It's because that's the original China. The original China had a communist revolution, and the revolutionaries took over all of China except the Republic of China, which is the country that existed prior to the People's Republic of China. And in order for the People's Republic of China to be legitimate in the world of the Han Chinese, they have to destroy Taiwan. Sorry. I just wanted to get that out. I hadn't said that in a while.
Yeah. Well, and it's well, look, man, it's relevant to bring up now, particularly because they're feeling very threatened in their power. A lot of people who are looking at the situation are saying that things there are quite precarious.
Which government has existed longer, the Republic of China or the People's Republic of China?
Well, that's why I said, the Republic of China was the original country.
If you look at the Chinese flag prior to the revolution and look at the Taiwanese flag, you'll be shocked to find that it's the same flag.
It's the same flag, yes. China's foreign ministry.
Breakaway republic is always so stupid. Anyway.
Yeah. If anything, the People's Republic of China is the breakaway republic. Also on the agenda is the expansion and normalization of military talks, something that I don't know. Anyway, in order to avoid confrontation in places like the South China Sea, as well as efforts at deconfliction in the Taiwan Strait, along with discussion of Washington's desire for China to crack down on the development and distribution of chemicals that could be made into fentanyl. Not going to happen. They'll say, sure, we'll talk about that stuff, and then they'll never do it again.
They may even give you lip service and say that they're going to do something about it. They might even bust one very obvious company. Like 4 people will go to
biggest competitor.
Yeah. High on Beijing's agenda will be U.S. tariffs, particularly those targeting Chinese chip makers. The United States has contentiously taken unreasonable measures against China in terms of tariffs, export controls, investment reviews, and unilateral sanctions, which have seriously harmed China's legitimate rights and interests. The Chinese foreign industry laid out.
They say that, but yet our tariffs and our import duties and all that things on Chinese goods are about 1/5 of what China puts on American products entering the Chinese market. So fair is fair, I guess.
Fair, yeah, right, exactly right. I'm a big fan of reciprocity and tariffs and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Reciprocity. That's another Tom Clancy reference for those who don't know.
There you go. Anyway, so that's about all I wanted to talk about with this story. Interesting, the kind of the shuttle diplomacy that's going on back and forth between, to kind of make all this stuff happen, because Sullivan's visit is not the first visit. It will just be his first visit. Needless to say, a lot of kind of backroom dealings have been going on. And so, but it shouldn't surprise anybody that the Biden administration, even when it's talking tough, is talking out of the other side of its mouth and trying to cut deals with the Chinese communists. All right, the next one here is so these are friends of the channel, Knightsbridge, and I wanted to share this story. I thought this was pretty good. So this is from the Knightsbridge Research Twitter page, KBR_Intel on X. China deploys 40 ships to block 2 from the Philippines. Officials in Manila said Tuesday that China deployed an excessive force of 40 ships to block 2 Philippine vessels, which are attempting to resupply the disputed Sabina Shoal. The Philippine Coast Guard said in a statement that ships included 31 suspected militia vessels alongside Chinese Coast Guard and naval ships. The Coast Guard said it remains steadfast in our commitment to uphold the national interest and ensure the safety and security of our waters. The China Coast Guard to abide with the international law and stop deploying maritime forces that could undermine mutual respect, a universally recognized foundation for the responsible and friendly relations amongst Coast Guards.
See, there's the exact problem right there. The Chinese have no respect for anyone but the Chinese.
Absolutely.
And they certainly feel that the Philippines, in all honesty, are an inferior people to them, much like the Japanese did during World War II.
Oh, the Han Chinese are very supremacist. They believe in the supremacy of their culture
from black people.
Let's see. The statement also said China's actions resulted in 2 44-meter multi-role response vessels being unable to safely deliver essential supplies. China's Coast Guard said that it took measures. I believe that footage we were looking at on Monday was in reference to this clash with this shoal. Sabina Shoal is near the second Thomas Shoal, a flashpoint that frequently sees action between the two countries' navies and coast guards. I wonder if they have an outpost on Sabina Shoal as well.
They do.
Yeah,
they have a navigational beacon that's maintained by their Coast Guard, I believe.
I mean, it seems to me like Philippines need to get in the island building business.
They actually are. That's what do you think the Sierra Madre is?
Well, yeah, but I mean that was the extent of it, right? It's like they haven't done anything to really improve that fighting.
No, they're doing another one somewhere nearby. I'm not sure where, but they are doing that right now.
Well, the one that's really done a lot is Vietnam. Vietnam has really put a lot of energy, especially in the last 5 years, in building up some of these, little atolls or shoals or whatever in their area. So that's one to look out for as well.
Well, this particular shoal, Taiwan and Vietnam also make claims to. So.
All right. Sorry. Moving on to the next story here. China steps up armed patrols on the border as Myanmar conflict deepens. So this is one we haven't talked about in a while. I believe, was it last year? I think it was. It was kind of beginning of last year. We talked about this a little bit. Oh yeah, this is the one where I basically told Stan that I didn't see the evidence to support his opinion, and that we had that big back and forth. proving that the council doesn't just lockstep agree with everything we each all say. Let's read into this. This is an Al Jazeera article. China's reported artillery shells injuring residents and damaging buildings in its territory amid fighting in the Shan state. China's military has stepped up army and police patrols along its western border with Myanmar amid deepening conflict between the military regime and the armed groups opposed to its coup. The patrols, which also involve air surveillance, will focus on the towns of Ruli, Zhengkang, and other frontline areas. The military said in a statement on Monday. Ruli, the China's southwest province in Yunnan, is a main route for people and goods heading to and from Myanmar, but China has reportedly artillery shells injuring residents and damaging structures in its territory amidst rising conflict across the border in Myanmar's Shan state. The fighting has escalated there since late last year, when ethnic armed groups formed an alliance to push the military from the area. The Beijing brokered truce in January broke down in late June, and the armed groups said that they had overrun multiple Myanmar military posts and taken control of key towns in a renewed and expanded offensive. The military has responded with bombing raids and drone attacks and restricted internet and mobile phone networks. Thousands of people have been forced to flee their homes. So once again, China is in the middle of a conflict that, is not really a Chinese conflict.
My friends, this is where HF radio comes into play and helps you survive.
Yeah, this kind of environment.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the environment where internet and phone service is restricted, right?
Yeah, which is most of Myanmar, probably. Not the most progressive government in the world, for sure. Any thoughts, on this kind of situation more writ large in along the border between Myanmar and China?
I think that China's actually doing all this for domestic consumption. They cannot dare to allow a state on its border to teach its citizens that they can fight their government and win. So China needs to present a strong presence patrol to show, hey, we're here and we're not going anywhere, and don't even think about trying this. Interestingly, how this rebellion began and grew legs in a nation that restricts firearms is entirely about the internet and freedom and 3D printing. Yeah. They 3D printed their own guns. They organized via social media and the internet, and were able to push back against a technologically and numerically superior foe. I only say that because it's interesting, not for any other reason.
Yeah. I will say another reason why China's involved in this and continues to get involved in all kinds of things. And I know that everybody in the council is aware of this, but I think maybe we sometimes forget that many in the chat who either have never thought strategically militarily or never served in the military at all, maybe aren't familiar with the concept of blooding.
I mean, I am.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely what's being done with Chinese troops all over the world.
Well, I don't know that I buy that. Because I just haven't seen the evidence of any kind of considerable number. Now, special operations, maybe. Well,
you're thinking of it more you're thinking of it more literally from the origin of it, and I'm thinking of it more generally of getting guys into combat situations, getting them experience, sending them back to train more guys, getting those guys into security roles, getting them more combat experience, sending them back to go train more guys. It's how you work up a military that's like they've never had anything resembling a decent military.
You're still fading in and out, by the way.
That stinks. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, they haven't until very recently had anything resembling a decent military. In very brief patches, they've got some decent guys, but largely theirs has been a military of numbers, right? They're just there to overwhelm you. And I think that they're trying to change that, but we'll see.
Let's see. Let's move on to the next story, shall we? Speaking of the Sabina Shoals, I thought this story kind of gave a little background and touched on what this area is that we don't really, hear about too often.
You mean the West Philippine Sea, not the South Chinese Sea?
Whatever. It's just a name. I don't have an emotional attachment. A stretch of uninhabited low-lying reefs in the South China Sea is fast becoming a dangerous new flashpoint between China and the Philippines, dealing a blow to recent efforts to de-escalate tensions in one of the world's most vital waterways. Let's see. I want to go down to the Sabine Shoal portion. Following a particularly violent encounter in the Second Thomas Shoal, that's the one where we talked about with the axes and machetes hacking at each other. Let's see. Chinese and Philippine officials sat down for talks and agreed to de-escalate. For a while, tensions appeared to be cooling, but the détente proved short-lived. On August 19th, in the middle of the night, Coast Guard ships from China and the Philippines collided near the Sabine Shoal. Manila said the Chinese ships rammed into its vessels, tearing a 3.6-foot hole into one of the 3-foot wide gap in another. Beijing blamed the Philippines for the collisions. So
there you put your ship right in front of my ship.
This is just kind of more detail about the, what was it? The initial reports and the video that came out. We were showing that on Monday, but we're starting to hear a lot more about this. This is just infuriating here. Then on Sunday afternoon, another clash took place with the Philippines accusing China of ramming and firing water cannons at the vessels from its fisheries bureaus in an encounter with 8 Chinese ships, including a warship from the People's Liberation Army Navy. China said the Philippine ship refused to accept control by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel and deliberately collided with it. Joe, you going to give Chinese control of your vessel?
Never. Yeah. You have to put me at the bottom.
So just about the shoal itself, analysts say Sabine Shoal is fast becoming the latest confrontation zones in what is already a highly contested part of the world, where a mistake could spiral into a conflict with hugely damaging consequences. All indications seem to point to the fact that this is an emerging third flashpoint after Second Thomas Shoal and the Scarborough Shoal.
What's not alluded to in this article, which was not helpful, was the admiral in command of the Philippine Coast Guard planted a Philippine flag on Sabina a few weeks ago, which did not help matters at all. So,
yeah, that's right. Manila is trying to avoid what they call a repeat of the Scarborough Shoal, which China seized in 2012 after a long standoff with the Philippines, and on which it maintained a permanent presence since co-added. We could kind of get into it. There's a lot more to the story, but it's a pretty good. It's pretty interesting. It does go into a lot of you just have to be aware of some of those those words that are more, I don't know, tainted with politics that you find in a CNN article.
I'm not sure that map they're showing is actually accurate. I believe it's actually the way around, but I'm not sure.
or zoomed into a useful scale either.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on, shall we? So this is my last story of the day for the China segment. Exclusive, China spent $15.3 billion on Pacific exercises in 2023, internal Taiwan estimates show. I mean, Joe, that ain't small change, especially if it's all mostly focused on, fixing, just all the things that you do in an exercise, operationalizing the intent of their military leaders, learning through, working with their, they've got regional partners that are involved in this as well. But it's just those reps, right, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a bit of money. This might show you that they intend to be doing something in the Pacific. China has been on a massive shipbuilding spree. They're turning out a stupid number of ships when we turn out 2 or 3 a year. They're turning out just a factor of 10 more than what we do. And guess what? Their quality control might not be the best, but when you've got that many ships, it doesn't matter, right? What do we have major surface combatant wise in the Pacific at this point? Nothing. So,
well, it's not nothing. It's just a lot less than it should be, and a lot less.
The biggest ship we have in this area is a Coast Guard cutter, and now it's the World Service Class one, but that's the biggest ship we have. It's roughly equivalent to the cruiser minus. So,
well, it's not even it's more like a destroyer minus. All right. So anything else that we guys want to talk about with China before I move on? Because the next area is the home of Joe's favorite camouflaged warlord. Talking about the Sahel. Segment 2 here. Sahel heats up. Hell heats up. Sahel. Anyway, I'm sorry. Sometimes my puns are not, or maybe just.
No, that one was good.
Ukraine's alleged support for Tuareg rebels fighting Wagner mercenaries further poisons Sahel conflict. So basically, Ukraine has dragged its war with Russia into this area. And
I'd like to point out that the Tuaregs that they are supporting are indeed aligned with ISIS.
Well, right. And, once again, when, foreign powers get involved in their own wars, but exporting them to other countries, invariably you find, guys like this that are willing to, be involved with anybody. Let's see. Let me read a little more here. Ukraine's alleged support for the Tuareg rebels in the war against the Malian army and its Wagner group allies, now restructured as the Africa Corps. Gotta love these names.
Wow.
I want to know if that's true or if that's just a media spin.
I hope it's true. I mean, that's that's a bit on the nose, but hey, I'll take it. Let's see. Which came to public light after the Battle of Tinzhou-Uatin last July, represents a new twist in the complex conflict in the Sahel, where the hostilities between Moscow and Kiev are reminiscent of the Cold War. On August 19th, the military juntas governing Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, which make up the alliance of the Sahel states. We've got the. Yeah, never mind. Let's see. The three countries denounced the official and unequivocal support of Ukrainian government for terrorism in Africa, particularly in the Sahel, which they claim is a violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity. In this sense, they demand that the UN take appropriate measures against these subversive acts. So it's interesting to see this kind of dynamic develop in Africa between these combatant forces against each other. Doesn't surprise me. It's interesting. Joe?
It's interesting to see them turn to the UN after having given the UN the finger a while back. So pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Making Scott pronounce place names is probably my favorite segment. Yes.
Right? Anyway. Yeah, it's everybody's favorite segment. I think that meme with the guy riding the bicycle and then shoving the stick into the spokes has never been more relevant.
Yeah, right. So Wagner in Ukraine mixing it up, in Mali, and in Burkina Faso we've got Joe's favorite African warlord here, Joe, I don't think that you condone this man as a
I was going to
human
say,
being.
hold on. I
No.
like the way the man dresses. That doesn't mean I like him.
Well, I'm just saying,
because,
why not?
for example, anyone
in
who
for a
wears
penny,
the
in for a pound.
collar up on one of these combat shirts when not wearing body armor is silly. But the shirt is nice.
Drippy McWeirdoson is kind of a
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble pull up the story because my internet is being silly. All right, here we go. In this let's see. Burkina Faso vows determined response against terrorists. And so there was a terror attack recently in Burkina Faso. According to a hospital source in Kenya, more than 100 people injured were being treated by the city's largest hospital. Essentially, it was a terrorist attack. Let's see. In this backlash, we will make sure that the enemy forces know that we will never again accept such barbarity on our territory. Burkina Faso's security minister, Mohamedou Sana, said in a state television broadcast. In any case, we want to assure Burkina people that we are committed to protecting the Burkina and their proper Burkinabe, and will stand firm, Sana promised. So JNIM, and I'll do that one time. Jamaat Nusra al-Islam wal Muslimi, Muslimini, there we go. An affiliate of Al Qaeda in the Sahel claimed responsibility for the terrorist attack on the village in central Burkina Faso this weekend, in which at least 200 villagers and soldiers were killed. Sana added, government has been directed medical and humanitarian assistance to all those affected, and the authorities are committed to protecting lives. Burkina Faso's junta-led government, that's the guy leading the junta right there in that combat shirt. And that is definitely his, uniform that he's always wearing, right, Joe? I mean, pretty much that's where we see everywhere he goes.
Yeah, but I'll also point out that in the territory he lives in, that lizard pattern adopted to desert colors actually probably works pretty darn good. And for everyone who's wondering where Timbuktu is, it's right there on the map. So there you go. Now you know. It's in Mali. You know what I think funny is I point this out every chance I get, but a certain United States representative, when she filed for divorce from her brother/husband, she filed it from the United States consulate office in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. I find that interesting, given that she's not from Burkina Faso. And then shortly thereafter, we had a coup. So draw your own conclusions.
C. Westby says, we really need to bring back Scott drinking and reading Slavic and African location names. I know. Those were the good old days, right?
Those were the days.
All right. So moving on to our next story here. This is from africanews.com. Sahel Security Council must call out Ukraine's support for terrorism. This is Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger say. In a letter dated August 19th, signed by the envoys, the move follows recent comments by Ukrainian officials who said that Kiev has played a role in attacks by separatist rebels in northeastern Mali. Andriy Yusov, a spokesperson for Ukraine's military spy agency, the most trustworthy agency in the Ukrainian government, I'm sure, said that Kiev had played a role. Mentioned on television that the Malian rebels received the necessary information to carry out the attack. So, I mean, they're not even saying they didn't do it, right? They're basically honest copping to it, and just kind of guaranteeing that nobody with the support they have will say anything about it. In late July, Tuareg rebels claimed the responsibility for the losses inflicted on the Malian armed forces. They claimed killing at least 84 Russian Wagner mercenaries and 47 Malian soldiers. Anything else on this one, guys?
It's just one more proof of the pudding that there's no good guy between Russia and Ukraine. They're each supporting a different side in various wars in which there are only bad sides. So it's just a bigger continuation of what they're doing elsewhere.
Yeah. Coup belt. Did Mali's 2020 army takeover change the region? And really the Sahel has been really kind of alive and active in the,
Hey, W. Daisy Girl Williams, how dare you malign Bernie Mac like that? Carry on.
Yeah, this love for Bernie Mac there in the chat. That's good. 4 years ago this month, a group of Malian soldiers descended on the military base in Kati, close to the capital of Bamako, arrested their most senior leaders and seized weapons from the armory. Shortly thereafter, they stormed Bamako in trucks, where they detained the then president Keita as Malayans jubilated in the streets. The coup d'etat came after weeks of protest against Keita, who faced calls to resign amidst accusations that his government was corrupt and failed to clamp down on an armed rebellion in the country's north, waged by groups linked to Al Qaeda and ISIL. The new military government promised to tackle the fighters swiftly, and we've already kind of looked at the fact that they are coming under some criticism for the fact that they still own all this land, and they got to do something about it. The August marked the end of the 8 years of political stability in Mali, where between 2012 and 2020 there were no military takeovers in an area that was coup-prone. The takeover that also stamped the start of a political ripple in the wider Western African region that has since seen other governments fall. We largely saw civilian rule strengthening in Africa until that moment. I think that the Mali coup was a critical juncture in the weakening of the norm. Gents, any kind of thoughts on this? I mean, the idea here is that that these countries tend to, they're not the same, but it's kind of like if one goes down, then it weakens the kind of the whole group because they're so interlinked. Thoughts?
I think that the lack of American leadership is why we're seeing a return to the Africa of the 1960s. And that's why we're seeing coups coming left and right. There was a serious attempt by the American governments in the past to try and remain involved, but we've largely withdrawn from Africa. And when we did so, the Chinese and the Russians stepped right in. And now you're seeing these kind of things going on, the length and breadth of Africa.
Yeah.
TIA.
TIA. Watcher?
Yeah, I don't think much more can be said than that, honestly. I don't track what's going on in Western Africa, largely because it seems like governments are around for 2.5 weeks, and then I have to learn a whole new set of faces.
Forget about the faces. Just it's the countries are the part that's important, and then you figure out who in power. What side do they fall on the Russia question? If they're pro-Russian, then if they're anti-Russian.
I get you. It's just that the startling rate of oscillation in those questions, and honestly,
I agree.
when pinned down, the how little their support for either side actually ends up mattering, because they end up just kind of largely, and I'm not saying I blame them for this. If I was a small country like this, I'd do the same thing. They capitulate a little bit, and then they get as much out of that relationship as they possibly can, and then they just kind of fake it the rest of the way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Gentlemen, that's all I've got for today. The kind of the key to the Sahel for me is that Joe, this is absolutely the prototypical, wars and rumors of war, the small civil wars that will be the world war of the future.
I heard this guy say that once.
I know, right? And so, to somebody who says, well, hey, I don't follow the Sahel, I don't follow African conflicts, what does that have to do with me? I just look at what the illegal immigration problem that you got in Europe from all of the refugees and or economic migrants that have popped up out of the Africa region because of all this conflict.
It's not even that. Do you own or operate anything that contains rare earth metals? Wow, look at that piece behind that dude. What is that?
Holy cow.
What is
Cameroon's President Paul Biya shakes hands with French President Emmanuel Macron.
Why is that woman in whiteface and why is she so tall?
Biya's wife. So the whiteface thing is a little more understandable, I guess. There are some cultures where that's a sign that you don't have to go out and work in the fields.
Yeah, but that's wild. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I totally lost track of it when she showed up on the scene. There is that if you own or operate anything that takes rare earth minerals, which is almost everything, your laptop, your phone, your car, it matters because more conflict in these areas raises the prices of those or availability. Once China and Russia get their hands on these things, you're probably not going to be able to get them.
Yeah,
so it really does matter.
All right, guys, let's go around the horn real quick, and we're going to call it a little early today. Joe, looking towards coming into the weekend, what do you think is the kind of the big thing that might take people by surprise?
I think that we're going to see some sort of action vis-a-vis Israel. I don't know if it's going to be by the Iranians or by Hezbollah. I do know that this morning and overnight there have been a large number of raids into the West Bank by Israel, snatching up a few people. So we shall see. And I think that someone's going to respond fairly strongly to Israel's preemptive strike against Hezbollah's attempted preemptive strike. So it is a mess and only going to get worse, which also means you're going to see a rise in street protests here against any action against Hezbollah and Hamas, which to me is ridiculous. There was a video that circulated during the DNC of a man in a camouflage uniform wearing a Hezbollah unit patch. To me, that guy should have been arrested. That's not protest activity, right? That's actually claiming alliance to a literal terrorist organization. So something to watch out. Yeah, I know that Lance Corporal veteran. As I was kind of raising awareness of that point.
Yeah, in response to the distraction that took Joe out of his mid stride. I thought that was pretty impressive. Watcher, looking towards the rest of the week, what you got?
Oh, this week? I don't know, man. I am really head down, nose to the grindstone myself. But let's see. The debate's going to happen roughly 12 days from now, right? 13 days from now. Yeah. Has the great Mike debate been settled? The way that everybody's arguing over every jot and tittle of this arrangement is frankly just amazing.
And it's all too much for Ann Coulter, evidently.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of dumb stuff over the next probably 10-ish days. I don't think we're going to get much of substance until after the debate. And in fact, I don't think we're going to get much of substance from the Harris campaign at all until after everything's over, right? Because their strategy is going to be as little exposure as possible. So anything to look for is going to be from more quiet private actors. You are seeing some bets being hedged in a lot of places where it's disadvantageous for them to do so, but at least they can lay up seats for the future. So I don't know. It makes me, I wouldn't say hopeful, but it makes me curious why they're so nervous if they're just gonna steal it anyway.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. I agree with you, Joe. I think we're going to see something with Israel break off, and then I think it's probably the next week to 2 weeks maximum. My money is on there would be something with Iran, but I'm not sure what.
Hey, thank you, Militant Roots.
Yeah, Militant Roots said member for 5 months. Just want to use my member chat to remind everybody to grow food, prepare, and train 100%. And make social connections in your neighborhood, in your community, so that you're not doing this all alone. And if you don't have neighbors that you can get in touch with, start coming to some of these training classes. You're going to meet people. You're going to learn things. You may learn how to find the people that you need to find. Thank you very much.
Somebody asked me if I wanted to speak to Goshen, Michigan. I have no idea what you're talking about. So Goshen's in Indiana.
So. Well, I guess he told you.
Oh, you mean Goshen plants? I don't know. There's any new movement on the Goshen plants. It's GOTION. It's a Chinese company. We've talked about it many, many times. The state of Michigan is giving them grants, is forcing a township to accept them, even though the township voted not to. And they'll be housing Chinese Communist Party workers in a state university dorms. But I don't know if there was something new about that, Rick. If there is, let me know. I really don't know.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, very good. I appreciate you all for being here. Chat, you guys are killing it as always. Thank you for the monetary remuneration that you sent to us via super chats. And I want to thank all the members for sticking with us. Thank you for putting those the locals links in there. If you're, I would say within probably. Watcher, when do you think the first video will be up on? I don't want to nail you down if it's
my guy. Oh yeah, I've got no idea. I've got people that can start helping me with that, though. I should start offloading some of that to them. But the question is, when am I going to have a chance to meet with those people? And
let's see if we can't get the
it's not looking good.
Yeah. Well, probably in the next 2 weeks. That would probably
I will do my absolute best.
That sounds like a no.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think I've told you in the background that the next 2 weeks are probably my absolute busiest of the entire year.
All right. Well, that just makes me wonder what the hell you've been doing for the last 3. But I'm just kidding. You've been doing the show. I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Actually, no, it's fine. I'm not. It's not even a hard time thing. It's worth mentioning. I hit the deer, and for a while, neither the wife or I have felt like we could focus very well. So it's just kind of been a weird thing. But apparently that's hit everybody because it took this long for the insurance to even come back with a quote. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's the link right there. I want to say thank you to Stormy. She's been doing a great job of throwing those links in there. So has W Daisy Girl and a couple others. I'm sure I'm missing a couple people there. But anyway, so thank you for that. Guys, if you haven't done already, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Let folks know that you're seeing good content over here on the Council of Future Conflicts and the Future Conflict channel. We've got a lot of energy coming out of Montana. We've got a lot of great ideas. Joe, you're getting ready to kind of plant the flag back out there. So looking forward to seeing what you're going to be doing with that place coming into the winter. Absolutely. Gibson, go. Don the Pleb, go check that out if you would. Thank you for sharing that. Guys, that's all I've got. Until next time, make sure you guys all stay safe.